going to go right up these trees. We're going to take a look at them and see what we can find. We're going to start with the tree that is on the left-hand side of your paper, and we're going to identify as we go. This gospel says that sin, and the problem with us is we are sinners. The question is why? How did we get that way? What is this sin problem that we have? And this gospel says sin is not what you say or do or think. Sin is what Adam did and said and thought, as well as Eve. In other words, when Adam and Eve sinned, they not only turned this world upside down, they turned our natures inside out, so that the nature that God gave us, which was loving and kind and generous and faithful and obedient, now became jealous and proud and arrogant and disobedient. And we fight against those natures every day of our lives. So these natures that we received from Adam and Eve, this gospel says that is our sin. All you have to do to become a sinner in the sight of God is to get yourself born and draw your first breath. Sin is the nature that you inherited at your birth. Now, as we go through this little study this morning, I'm going to be sharing little snippet statements from various individuals. And I want you to remember one thing as we go through these little statements. Every statement that I will read on both sides of these gospel trees is from a Seventh-day Adventist. It may be a teacher, a pastor, a layperson, but all of the statements are from Seventh-day Adventists that I'm going to share with you. Here's the first one.
Okay. So that's why I also called it a quasi-SDA gospel, because the statements that he's reading from tonight, folks, are from Seventh-day Adventists. All of them. So remember that. But this is supposed to be the Christian gospel. Right off the bat, he says, Christians do not believe sin is what you say, do, or think. Richard, is that true?
Absolutely not. Sin is multi-dimensional. And first of all, I would point out that the Greek word used in the New Testament for sin does include more than just action. The idea behind it is of missing the mark. If you think of like an arrow shooting at the target and missing the mark, that's what is being conveyed when the word sin is used. And however, as we know, sin does include more than that. From that missing the mark proceeds all these actual corruptions, all these instances where we fall short, where we don't love God with all our heart, soul, and mind, and we don't love our neighbor as ourself. And so that's just patently false, that it's only our nature. Of course, Christians would believe more than that.
Yeah. Go ahead. Anything else?
Oh, I just
didn't want to cut you off. You're good. If you don't have anything else.
It's evident that we believe more than that. Read creeds and confessions. Read expositions of the law written by Christians, and the great detail that these theologians, these great men that the Lord has given the church over the ages, have given of all the different ways we can sin against God. That's a total misrepresentation to say it's only nature. Now he would argue that sin doesn't have that dimension of nature, that it's only behaviors. And that's where he would get it wrong. But it's a total straw man to say that Christians don't believe that actions, thoughts, words, deeds, etc. are sin.
Yeah. So he badly engages in the fallacy of conflation. He conflates original sin, the teaching and doctrine around headship, man being a fallen creature, dead in sins and trespasses, Ephesians 2, which is regarding man's sinful condition, with what sin is in general. So, folks, we have an article on this on our website. What is sin? please come and check this out. Again, it's all hyperlinked. I mean, we go into this in great detail because this is one of the major problems that the Adventist Church deals with, which is their very truncated view of sin. But as you can see, we get into, and this isn't answering Adventism's unique opinion, by the way, we get into a variety of categories. So to say that it's not behavioral or that Christians don't believe it's behavioral, and what he's presenting is supposed to be the Christian gospel, is not entirely accurate. But Richard, the reason it's not an accurate representation is because of what I would say, Romans 5, 12 through 21. Even if he wants to argue, it's only behavioral. It's not conditional. Because he kind of says this in like a little bit of like a balking and scoffing sort of way of like, they believe this and that's in error. He said when Adam and Eve sinned, they turned our natures inside out. Yes, Mr. Priebe, that's what being dead in sins and trespasses, a child of wrath by nature is. But the SDA system does not have a category for this. The SDA Church is stuck in strictly a physical frame of reference, which also explains why they don't properly understand the new birth and being born again. And all of that ultimately stems from them not understanding union with Christ. That's what it ultimately comes down to, is not understanding union with Christ, because that involves being made a new creature in Christ. That's not just behavior modification, like they like to say. There's something a lot bigger going on there. All right. So he said all the statements moving forward are from Seventh-day Adventists. Remember that.